You've got everybody in, Trish?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Mount Laurel Township Planning Board regular meeting of November 10th, 2021. The meeting is now called to order. Notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the law by posting a copy of the annual notice on the bulletin boards at Town Hall, filing a copy of the annual notice with the clerk of the Township of Mount Laurel in the clerk's office at the township, and emailing a copy of the annual notice to the Burlington County Times, the Courier Post, and the Central Record. All of these postings, filings, and emails took place on the 20th of January, 2021. At this time, I would ask that everyone please turn off all cell phones except for the emergency. Just ask everybody from the public if you would just at this time stay on mute. At this time, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and to observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I would ask Trish to call the roll.
Chairwoman Conti,
Present.
Mayor Stegler,
Present.
Township Manager Tomchak,
Present.
Mr. Pizzo,
Present.
Mr. Pfeiffer,
Present.
Mr. Baskey,
Present.
alternate number 1, Mr. Troilau,
Present.
alternate number 2, Mr. Venkakishnan.
Present.
Thank you, Trish.
You're welcome.
Does anybody from the board, the next thing on the agenda is the adoption of minutes. Does anybody have any comments or edits for the minutes from October 14th, 2021? Anybody from the board? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, this is Mike Pfeiffer. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 14th meeting.
I have a motion for Mr. Pfeiffer. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second for Mayor Stegler. Trish, will you call the roll?
Mr. Pfeiffer,
Aye.
Mayor Stegler,
Aye.
alternate number 2, Mr. Venkakishnan,
Yes.
alternate number 1, Mr. Troilau,
Aye.
Mr. Baskey,
Aye.
Mr. Pizzo,
Aye.
Township Manager Tomchak,
Aye.
Chairwoman Conti.
Aye, so moved. The next item on the agenda is resolutions. We have R 2021-17-PB2116. This is for 4-star The Gables, block 215.02. This is for the preliminary and final major site plan, extension of time, 1-year extension. Does anybody have any questions, edits, concerns about the resolution? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion from the board.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Township Manager Tomachek. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Mayor Stegler. Trish, will you call the roll?
Township Manager Tomchak,
Aye.
Mayor Stegler,
Aye.
alternate number 2, Mr. Venkakishnan,
Yes.
alternate number 1, Mr. Troilau,
Aye.
Mr. Baskey,
Aye.
Mr. Pfeiffer,
Aye.
Mr. Pizzo,
Aye.
Chairwoman Conti.
Aye, so moved. At this time, I would ask the board solicitor to swear in the board professionals.
Good evening. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this public hearing?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we move to public hearings. We have 2 public hearings listed. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the procedure of this board that every applicant is limited to 1.5 hours to present their case, and that does include the public portion. If for any reason the application exceeds 1.5 hours, it will be continued to the next available meeting unless the board is polled and agrees to continue the public hearing. No application will be initiated after 10 p.m. The first public hearing we have this evening is the open space plan for the township. And I'm going to turn this over to the township manager, Meredith.
Thank you, Chairwoman. The The township, we have put in for funding that is owed to us from the state of New Jersey, related to open space. So the township has requested $2.3 million to be refunded back to us. The state of New Jersey has stated they will not give us any of the funding that is owed to us until we had updated our open space plan. So Bob, Melvin, and Claire are on the, from Panoni, have been working extremely hard with myself, Jerry Masha, and other township officials to update the open space plan. We've had a open meeting that was advertised for the public to attend. There's been an online survey that has been shared multiple times, and over 500 residents have taken that survey to give us an idea of exactly what direction the township was looking for us to go in open space wise. So the next thing on the checklist is just a little presentation about the open space plan, so that the board can consider it for adoption tonight, so that we can send the new plan up to the state and the township can receive its funding. So I'm going to turn it over at this time to Bob. If you're okay, Trish, he's going to share his screen and go through a little slide show for everybody.
If we could have Claire do the share.
Sure, absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you.
Does John have to swear them in at all?
Bob did,
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would recommend that we swear any witnesses for this presentation.
so John, Bob did have his hands up when you were swearing in township officials, professionals, because he is a township professional. So he was.
Claire might want to also go through that process.
Okay.
Sure.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this public hearing?
I do.
Thank you, Claire. Can you just state and spell your full name so we'll have it for the record?
Yep, Claire Jaffe, Claire, and my last name is Jaffe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, Meredith, for the introduction. My name is Bob Melvin. I'm with Panoni Planning. I have Claire Jaffe with me this evening, and over the last several months, we've been working with Meredith and Jerry on this plan. Next, please. So the master plan process is that while the open space master plan is an optional element in the municipal land use law, Green Acres program requires that it be implemented inside your master plan in order to qualify for the funding that Meredith was chatting about. And part of that requirement is also to have an implementation element to it. And the master plan does help guide implementation and also helps give you legal rights as you move forward in any potential acquisition for open space that you may do in the future. Next. So we started this process in May with project kickoff, and from June until October, we went through and did an inventory of the existing assets that you have, as well as potential assets that the community might want to pursue. There was the public process that Meredith discussed, which was both an online survey where we had a really robust response, as well as a public in-person meeting that was held back in October. Based on those aspects, we did generate a draft open space and recreation plan, and it was posted with the community. And here we are at the November 21st planning board, and we're here for the community if they want to do provide comment, and if all goes well, the board may feel comfortable approving the plan tonight and adopting it as part of your master plan element. So the sections that are required by the New Jersey Green Acres program are outlined on the screen, as you can see, and we have followed that outline in order that the community is in fact, in good stead with Green Acres. Just to let you know also, we did submit this to Green Acres for them to review as well. And we did get positive feedback from them in terms of what the document, the state of the document as it exists. Next. So one of the most important aspects of the document is to articulate goals and objectives for your open space system, whether that's acquisition or maintenance of existing assets. We did a number of things. We looked at your master plan, your most recent master plan element, and there were some hints inside there as to the community's vision for its open space system. We also worked with Meredith on where the community was in terms of its thought process. And these are articulated here in, I guess there's 3 goals on this slide and another 5, and I'll go through them very quickly. But I think what's important as we go through them is the dots which represent the objectives of the goals. You'll see that a number of them start with the word continue, and that they reflect the fact that the community has been doing a lot of effort in its open space system, and the true effort is to continue the good work that you've been doing. So the first goal that's articulated is to promote protection of open space, important habitats, and environmentally sensitive areas, such as large areas. Excuse me, little dry mouth. Such as large undeveloped areas, stream corridors, wetlands, and fields. And as you notice, the first ones are to continue the acquisition of open space lands throughout the township with a priority given to large lots and environmentally sensitive areas, to continue to protect open space by supporting open space dedications and deed restrictions as part of your site plan and subdivision process, and also to provide for the retention of woodland streams, stream corridors, wherever possible. And the important one that you'll see in almost each of these is to explore funding sources to help support the goal, and in this case, the goal being acquisitions. Goal 2 would be to improve and enhance open space for active and passive recreation use throughout the community. The town has a really good history of maintaining and upkeeping their facilities, and so it's to continue that effort. Continue to assess the needs of the community as the populations change, whether that's aging or getting younger, because the twists and turns that populations make over time. And again, to explore grant opportunities for park wayfinding throughout the township. Number 3 is to explore the need for and plan the expansion of needed active and passive recreation opportunities in the township. And that's to assess opportunities for all ages, for recreation, including fishing, pickleball, and fitness equipment. Assess the opportunities for updated or expanded athletic fields and courts, and to explore for grant opportunities. Number 4, which would be on the next slide, is provide a balanced park system that offers a variety of amenities in diverse settings for the broadest use by Mount Laurel Township. Assess existing bathroom facilities for maintenance and opportunity for new facilities. Assess opportunity for community gathering facilities, including pavilions, picnic areas, and grills, and add more parking facilities where needed. And number 5 is to improve and enhance existing trail facilities and explore opportunities to expand and link the trail system through either acquisition or easements. That is to maintain and update existing facilities for safe accessibility, access opportunities for new trail connections within parks and between parks, work with other municipal departments to coordinate that effort, and to explore grants to support that opportunity. The next slide we're going to go into is articulating the inventory, and I think this is something that, while you all live it and know it, I think these numbers will resonate in a positive way with you. And Claire, do you want to just speak a little bit to these slides?
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked on the inventory, and so the entirety of Mount Laurel Township is about 14,073 acres, and of that 2,017.7 acres, which amounts to 14.3%, are preserved through municipal, county, Board of Education, New Jersey Turnpike, or state ownership. And those are the acres that this plan really deals with. But as we all know, there's also a lot of privately owned HOA land, which obviously contributes to the open space network. So in this part of the plan, we acknowledge that there's another 1,342 acres of land that are privately owned through HOAs. And together that equals almost 24% of the township, 3,360 acres. But the inventory map that's in the plan just looks at the State County Board of Education, New Jersey Turnpike, and Municipal Utilities Association owned land. And so this is the inventory map that we created with help from Meredith and Jerry, updated them with most recent information. And this was a lot of the work went into assessing all of the open space land and creating this inventory. Another important part of the plan is a needs assessment. So Bob mentioned this needs assessment basically looks at how the current open space land is meeting the needs of the community right now. And part of that is comparing Mount Laurel's acreage to national standards. And so Mount Laurel Township exceeds the national standards for park acreage per person and also for parkland per 1,000 residents when compared to national averages and also compared to similar sized municipalities throughout the country. We also looked geographically at how distributed parkland was, and park facilities are well distributed across the township. The southwest and southeast corners are the furthest from active recreation spaces. We also looked at the demographics, and overall the median age is rising slightly in Mount Laurel. And so as the population is aging, as we mentioned in follows one of the goals and policies is that they should think about continuing to provide park facilities that serve people of all ages, like pickleball, walking trails, and walking loops. And another important aspect which has been mentioned was the public participation. And so in-person public meetings and the online survey, almost 600 people were sounded, which was really incredible turnout. The top priorities through the engagement were open space preservation, playgrounds, and trails. We also asked about just general satisfaction with the outdoor activities and also the maintenance. And 82% of respondents were very satisfied or satisfied with the outdoor activities that are available right now. And 92% were very satisfied or satisfied with the maintenance of existing parks. And this was a quote from one of the residents who took the survey. Thanks for your efforts thus far, present council and previous included. I think it's important that we as a township preserve and expand our open space commitment while improving our investment into what we already have. It's an ongoing task, never completed, but always appreciated. And I thought that really captured well a lot of the feedback we got and also related really well to this plan. So the end of the plan results in an action plan that's fueled by both some of the ongoing work that's going on right now, as well as, again, the public participation, the needs assessment, and also part of this is a resource assessment, which looks very specifically at each park and what are the resources that are there and opportunities for expansion. So within the action plan, these are all proposed actions to continue to pursue acquisitions as budget allows. At Laurel Acres Park, the proposed changes are additional walkway, new fishing pond with fishing piers, additional parking, a walking trail, as well as crosswalk improvements on South Church Street. At Devonshire Park, new turf field, as well as new parking spaces. At Memorial Park, a new parking lot, as well as some stormwater basin improvements. At the Laurel House, 6 conference rooms, outside grills, a table picnic, a pavilion, and volleyball court. At Rancocas Point Park, a walking trail, pickleball court that will replace one of the tennis courts while updating the other tennis court, ADA accessible sidewalks, and an updated basketball court, and at Elbow Park, bathrooms and pavilions. And so I'll pass it back to Bob.
So yeah, that is the general presentation, the quick version, and we open it up to questions and comments at this point, if there are any.
Board members have any questions or comments for Bob or Claire?
Hey, Claire, can you just stop sharing the screen just so the Zoom, we can see everybody. Thanks.
Does anybody from the board have any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. If there's anybody from the public that would like to comment on this, you need to be on video. So please make sure you're on video. If there's anybody from the public. Trish, are you seeing anybody?
No, I don't.
Are you there?
Oh, Emily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I live.
Emily, first, we have to have our solicitor swear you in.
Okay.
Okay,
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please state and spell your name and provide your address.
Emily Krebs, Emily Krebs, 3 Spicebush Court.
Thank you.
thank you, Emily. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I am just wanting to get a little bit more clarity on the Amazon building that's supposed to go in at 655 Union Mill Road.
This is just, the public portion on this is just for the open space plan at this time. So
Okay,
that's what
I'm
we're
sorry.
doing in this. That's okay. That's okay. So if anybody from the public, we're going to get to that next, but if anybody from the public has anything on the open space plan that was just presented by Bob and Claire, does anybody from the public have any comments? I'm not seeing anything. Trish, are you seeing anything?
I do not.
Okay, so seeing none, I will close the public portion. I will bring this back to the board. Anything from the board, any last minute comments, concerns, questions? Anything from the board professionals on this before I ask for?
Madam Chair, I
Okay.
did briefly look over the plan. It's a well-done, well-prepared plan. This, as stated, is part of your master plan. So it's a document of the planning board. It's the planning board's right to review and adopt it. And this will become part of our master plan moving forward in the future. So be happy to answer any questions you may have made, but like I said, I think they did a very good job on the project.
Okay, seeing nothing from the board at this time, I would ask for a motion. Do I have a motion to approve the Mount Laurel Township Open Space Plan?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Mayor Stegler. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second it.
I have a second from Mr. Fife. I think I have it from Mr. Pizzo first, actually. I have a second from Mr. Pizzo. Trish, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Stegler,
Aye.
Mr. Pizzo,
Aye.
Mr. Venikakishnan, alternate number 2,
Yes.
Mr. Troilo, alternate number 1,
Aye.
Mr. Baskey,
Aye.
Mr. Pfeiffer,
Aye.
Township Manager Tomchak,
Aye.
Chairwoman Conti.
I so moved.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Bob. Thank you, Claire.
Be well, everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Bob.
you very
Thank you,
much.
Claire. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so at this time, the next item on the agenda for public hearings is Union Mill Road LLC, PB 2104. When we adjourned the last meeting at last month's hearing, we were in public portion. So we're going to continue with the public portion. As promised last time, we had 3 individuals that had their hands up prior to us having to conclude the meeting. So the first one I have is Joshua Chatton. Is Joshua on the call? There you
Yes.
are. Okay. So Josh, our solicitor just has to swear you in. So John will then. John,
But just before we do that, Madam Chair, I
Yes.
just want to have the applicant's counsel, Mr. Baranowski, place his notice of appearance on the record, just to, even though we are in public portion, we are starting up again. So I just wanted to do that for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and thank you, Madam Chair. I am here, Robert Baranowski, present on behalf of the applicant.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got his hand up for you, John.
He
Do you
does,
see
okay, I'm
Josh?
sorry.
Okay.
I don't see him on the screen. So do you
Okay.
swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this public hearing?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please state and spell your name for the record and provide your address.
Sure. My name is Josh Chatton. That's last name is Chattin. I live at 1122 Union Mill Road. It's between Academy and Church Street.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chatton. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I had a few questions that I didn't get a chance to ask last time, and I think it's unfortunate that it had to spill over into a third meeting. But I would like to just ask a few things, and I will keep this brief. One of the things I was wondering is, there was a lot of talk about traffic. And I was wondering if consideration was given to the impact on Bancroft School. I didn't really hear very much about that.
Mr. Baranowski?
Mr. Baranowski, does one of your professionals, or do you want to address that question, or?
I'm not sure how exactly to address that. If the question is, how are we impacting another user of property?
What
think Mr.
his question just was it considered? Did you talk to Bancroft at all in the process? So
No.
that's just his question. No.
No.
So Mr. Chatton, no, they did not.
Okay. There were a lot of discussions and reassurances about how traffic is going to be controlled. And I just wanted to ask, are these assurances all captured, enforceable? And after the building is built and then the traffic evaluation is done, what happens if the amount of traffic is found to exceed the projections? The building is already there at that point.
I'm going to turn that over to our traffic engineer for the board. Mike, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, the purpose of the post-construction traffic study is for the township to obtain any traffic impact fees associated with this development. The current traffic study provided by the applicant indicated that traffic fees aren't required because they're not contributing more than 25 PM peak hour trips to any one particular intersection. That's based upon nationally accepted data from the Institute of Transportation Engineers. So what we were saying is the post-development study will say, hey, if this thing does generate in excess of what they claim in their report, this will give the township the ability to collect traffic mitigation fees at various intersections within the Transportation Improvement District.
Okay.
And that data, Mr. Chatton, is provided. We have to follow the state requires us, correct, Mike? That's a state requirement to follow the national.
It's not a state requirement. The NJDOT uses ITE data. All the municipalities and traffic engineers in the state use Institute of Transportation Engineers data. So it's accepted nationally, it's accepted within New Jersey, and certainly within the Township of Mount Laurel.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. And then my last question is, it may be a little beyond the scope here, but I think I'll ask it anyway. It's quick. I was doing some reading on this, and according to a recent survey that I saw done by Newmark, which is a commercial real estate advisory firm, they say, quote, activity in the South New Jersey industrial market continues to amaze. More than 11 million square feet of warehouse space was leased in central and northern New Jersey in the first quarter of 2021, the highest total for at least 20 years. The busiest submarket is Burlington County, where some 3.5 million square feet of industrial space were under construction in the first quarter. Now, that was published at around April. Since then, a new study has come out at around, I think at around October, that says that trend is actually accelerating further. So I guess my question would be, has this trajectory been considered, and are there concerns over it? And if this is not the forum for it, Where would this issue be addressed?
I'm not sure, you're just speaking overall to the trend, and what we can address this evening is the actual application and site itself.
I
So
understand.
we wouldn't speak to the trends. I'm not sure.
And I don't think we can consider that report because you said Burlington County, and I would say that those numbers are probably high because of Florence Township. And unfortunately, we can't consider that for this application. I understand
Okay.
your point, but unfortunately, we can't consider that for this.
Oh, those are all, this is all good information. It's all part of my question. So
We
thank you.
just, we have to look at this actual site and data for this actual site and considering the application. So,
Yes, I understand this meeting is much more narrow than that
Mhm.
question. But
So-
this was the first this is the way that I heard about this particular project. And I imagine that a more appropriate place to interact would have been, I guess, when the area was zoned or something more
So
along.
that when the master plan is edited or revised, and that's done every so many years, there are public meetings. The
Okay.
planning board has public meetings as well as council has public meetings. So when that occurs, then that's where the plan is discussed as far as zoning districts, what's considered industrial, what's residential, what's open space, all of that. And so when those meetings are held, just like any public meeting, it's publicized. So you would just
Okay.
have to just continue to watch the township website. And whenever
you
that
can-
happens, I don't
you
know when
can-
we're due for an update on the master plan.
Not soon, but you can also sign up for agendas on our township website, and the planning board agenda, zoning board, township council agendas would be emailed to you as they're posted on the website, so you can see the topics that are on the different boards' agendas.
Great, I will do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chadden. Anything else?
That's
it?
all.
Okay, thank you. So the
Thank you,
next
Lisa.
person I had on the list from the last meeting is Janice Miller. Is Janice Miller on the call? Trish, do you see a Janice
Hi.
Miller?
No, I don't see her.
Then the next person that was on the call that had their hand up before we had to adjourn was a Richard Gabrielli. Is Richard? Yep, I see him. Okay, so Richard, if you could unmute yourself and raise your right hand for our attorney.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this hearing?
I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name for the record and provide your address.
Richard Gabrielli, Gabrieli. I live at 341 Walton Ave. So
Thank you.
I live right down by the little wooden bridge, basically right across the street from this project. And I don't think this particular business can work on that particular property. And I just want to lay out some reasons why I think that's so. So for me right now, I spend a lot of time outside, and I'm used to watching deer run back and forth across Walton Ave. And when I hear I'm going to go from that to watching tractor trailers travel back and forth Walton, I mean, that's my worst nightmare. And so this is a 24-hour business, 7 days a week. That's the last meeting. There was an estimate out there of 49 tractor trailers visiting this site a day. So that's 49 in and 49 out crossing Walton Ave. That's 98 a day. That's like one truck every 15 minutes. And that's 98 trucks a day, 686 trucks a week. And that works out to be 35,770 trucks a year. So, yeah, I'm concerned how that's going to impact Walton Ave and the surrounding roads. And I'm also concerned about pollution, noise pollution, air pollution, light pollution. And so there's 272 parking spaces and 3 shift chains on a 24-hour a day business. So that's 272 cars in, 272 cars out. That's 544 cars a shift change, which is 1,632 cars a day, 11,424 cars a week, 595,680 cars a year. And I think most of that traffic, a lot of that traffic is going to be using the driveway for Brightview. So the thing with the owner of Brightview, I can't believe that they granted permission to use their driveway. And early on, they were going to allow tractor trailers to also use that driveway.
The application now doesn't have that.
That doesn't have that now, no.
Correct.
But I mean, those people that live at Brightview Assisted Living, they pay a lot of money to live there. And currently they have a nice serene setting back there. You know, I mean, they're living out the rest of their lives pretty much. They can sit out there, walk the property, sit nice peaceful setting. That will all be ruined if this project can continue forward with the amount of traffic going back and forth. And the other gentleman mentioned Bancroft. Now I know for a fact, I live right up the road from Bancroft. Twice a day, buses bring students in, roughly around 8:30 in the morning. They pick the students up 2:30 in the afternoon. Well, those buses, they go from the school, they run all the way down the driveway, they spill out on the Walton Ave, and they're parked there for, I don't know exactly how long, but you know, probably like an hour at a time. And I mean, I never timed it, but I've driven through them, you know, half a dozen times when they're out there, and it's a little dicey. I mean, they're in both directions, lined up, trying to get in, waiting to get down the Bancroft driveway. There's still traffic coming in and out of their driveway, and then there's cars going up and down Walton that have to work around the buses and weave in and out while traffic's trying to come out of their driveway. And it's a little dicey for cars. I can't imagine tractor trailers having to do that twice a day. And then the last meeting, Dennis posed a question about road signs. How many people obey road signs? Well, I know for a fact on Walton Ave, nobody obeys road signs here. Tractor trailers drive up and down this road. They ignore the weight restriction signs. They ignore the speed limit signs. It's a 25-mile-an-hour posted speed limit out here. They blow right through that. The weight restricted sign down on the corner of Walton and Union Mill, that's knocked over. It's bent over, probably from a truck trying to turn down Walton. There's not enough clearance to do that. They went off the road, clipped the sign, pushed it over, and cars do as well. They fly up and down this road all day long, 40, 50 miles an hour. I mean, we desperately need some speed bumps on this road to slow things down. So that's signs. They don't work. They're proven not to work. They're not going to work here. They're not going to work the direct tractor trailers around Mount Laurel. And then the construction of that building, I'm concerned about that size building on that lot back there, 35 feet tall, 76,000 square feet. I mean, what size I-beams are we talking about getting in there? What size trailers are they going to be on? What size crane do you have to get back in there to swing that steel to set it in place? It looks on the drawings like they're filling in some wetlands, so I guess they're going to be hauling some muck out and bringing some fill in. How many dump trucks are going to be going in and out to accomplish that? So that's mainly my concerns with this project. I really don't think that this particular business can work on that piece of property. It's just that property is almost landlocked the way it sits. There's one driveway in, really. You have access from Brightview that they're granting permission. But for a business that requires such a large volume amount of traffic going in and out, that's a terrible location for it. Further down on Walton where the large warehouses are, that's perfect down there. But over here, I think that business will not work in there. And it's just going to cause a lot of impact in the surrounding areas. And now, having said that, I realize that that property is zoned industrial. And I just think that maybe a business that makes more sense for that piece of property, which I have an idea that I hope to take seriously, but it would be a lot less cost for construction, a lot simpler to construct. And you're not adding any cars to it. And you may have one employee on there, like a self-storage. The people around the area would benefit from it. You got apartments down the road, plenty of condos in Mount Laurel. And that's pretty much what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gabrielli.
Thank you.
Okay, so then next we had Emily. John, does she doesn't have to be sworn in again, does she?
Well, I'd like to do it again, Madam Chair, because it was under the previous matter. So
Okay.
just to be on the safe side, we'll swear Ms. Krebs in once again.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this public hearing?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please, if you could, please state and spell your name one more time and provide your address as well. Thank you.
Emily Krebs, Krebs, at 3 Spicebush Court.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
All right, thank you for having me. I have, Richard brought up many points on the south side of Walton, but the north side of Walton, but the south side of Walton over Union Mill. Can you provide a little bit more clarity on how you guys are controlling the safety for the pedestrians of all the traffic that is going to be increased? It already is a road that is heavily used for cut through from Union Mill to Mount Laurel or to Hainesport Highway. But when you put that Amazon building there, there's going to be so many people that are trying to avoid Union Mill because there is so much traffic that's going to be increased. And then you also put the vans that are constantly going to be going back and forth.
We don't know, Emily, who the tenant for this building is yet, has not been decided. So
Okay.
the
So,
tenant
okay, well,
for this
all right.
building hasn't been decided. So we were told, the board has been told that it will be used for probably businesses like cabinet makers, things of that sort. So their trucks would be going out Walton, heading towards Briggs Road through the industrial park.
Okay. And like I think Josh said, there is a hard time for people to road signs. They don't always watch them. And if their GPS is telling them to go down one way, then they get there and turn around that they're not supposed to. And there's just a lot of
the address for this location was changed so that GPS units would take them through the industrial park through Leaden Hall to get them to Walton. So they legally changed the address of this location with the township to address that issue with GPS units to get them to go down that way. There will always be an occasional vehicle that would, might stray from those directions, but anybody who follows GPS would go, that's how it would take them. It's through Leaden Hall, so down Briggs or off of Route 38, down Leaden Hall and to Walton that way.
Okay. So I hear that makes sense. And I had heard that, not about the GPS thing, but that where they were supposed to enter and exit the trucks. And so whatever it is that, there's going to be a high number of loading docks. And so we know that it's going to be a big establishment, whatever it is. I think my biggest concern is the community. Richard is so close to this building. And then, like I said, this community over here off the south side of Walton there's so many runners and cyclers and skateboarders. And it is constantly being used for exercise. And so it's puzzling to me that so far we haven't had any accidents and somebody being hit because it's barely a 2-lane road. And when I'm passing a landscape truck or a bus, you have to slow down. And so to have increased traffic at all is completely detrimental to the safety of these pedestrians. And so as a runner, I used to go out there and you can't, it's not safe, but most of the people around here, that's all we have. And so I see when I'm driving by, I see kids riding their bike and texting. Is there going to be any responsibility taken from this when it has to be said and it's known that the traffic is going to increase on Walton Avenue going between the roads? And so is there going to be any responsibility taken by either the township or by the, whatever building is there? It's a huge issue. It can't be ignored.
I don't know if the township manager or the mayor want to speak to the township. I can't speak for the township in regards to that.
And not at this time.
The use is a permitted use under the land use law. They're allowed to occupy the site and allowed to put traffic on the road. Union Mills, a county road, that will go to the county for their review and approval. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is Union Mill County Road?
It's Township Road.
Township Road, apologies. But again, the land use law is clear for the traffic there. If the use is permitted, an applicant's allowed to use the road. So they have the rights to use it just like anybody else.
And I assume with these that there has been a traffic. I think Josh said something about a traffic.
There's been a traffic study. That's a requirement of this application. Every application that comes before the planning or zoning board, there is a traffic study conducted. And then those documents are reviewed by the board professionals, and we have a traffic engineer who reviews those and determines whether there's improvements that need to be made to the road based on the number of trips. And as our board traffic engineer was stating, that there are national standards that the state adopts, and that determines based on the number of trips, if there's any improvements to roads, intersections, as far as lights, anything of that nature, that the applicant would have to contribute to based on the number of trips that are produced from the site.
And that study's been done?
No, the study won't be done until tenant. So they're before us to build this location. There is no tenant identified for this site. So once the tenant is in the building, then a traffic study would be done to determine what kind of impact they've had to the roads and if there's any improvements that need to be made.
Madam Chair, if I may, the applicant professionals did prepare a traffic study. They based their study on ITE data. Our concern is that if this site, a user goes into the site that will generate more trips than what their report has indicated, we want the ability, the township wants the ability to collect Transportation Improvement District funds as their to help offset the impact of this project on the adjacent roadways and intersections. So traffic study was done. It was prepared in accordance with accepted standards. But again, the post-construction studies, should this get approved, will just ensure that the township will receive any required contributions for the upgrade of the traffic signals or intersections in the immediate area.
Okay. All right, I think, yeah, I guess you answered that question. I assume that it's all been studied, but just on Walton, I'd like a little bit, if, I don't know if you guys you can tell us, but just what you guys would do for Walton Avenue as providing sidewalks, all of that, if we can request that. Obviously we have a concern, massive concern over this.
That
building.
request to have sidewalks put in at Walton on the south side, which is away from this application, that's not up to the applicant to provide. That's something that you could take to a township council meeting and request to see if the township would be interested at this time in putting sidewalks in, but that wouldn't reflect on this applicant. They can only make improvements to the land that they own. They have agreed, if this application is approved, to put sidewalks in along Union Mill, so that there would be from Fernbrook to the corner of Walton, there would be sidewalks put in on Union Mill. And we've discussed with them the possibility of putting some sidewalks in on the property they own along Walton. But that would depend on a state DEP study because of wetlands to determine whether or not that can even be done.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this application? I have Judy Weinstein. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, thank you. Mhm.
If you could just raise your right hand for our solicitor, Judy.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name and provide your address for the record.
Judy Weinstein, Weinstein, 208 Amberfield Drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for recognizing me. I have a couple of comments. One is it kind of seems to me, for lack of a better expression, bass backwards to let this huge building be built and then afterwards deal with the repercussions of all of the tremendous increase in traffic, not only on Walton Avenue, but also in the whole surrounding area. Once something like this is built, it's really hard to turn back. And if there are unexpected consequences of a huge building like this and all the tractor trailers, it's really hard to double back. And I truly feel I can foresee a lot of disadvantageous changes that would have to be forced on the community in order to accommodate this business that has been allowed to get built as well as flourish. The other thing is, we actually have a grandson who played soccer at the soccer field right on Walton Avenue. There's a huge soccer field. And I had occasion to drive by there last night about 8:30-ish, I think. And there were kids playing soccer there. And if you have the increased traffic on that road from all of these tractor trailers, to me, it's a safety issue. There are kids playing there at night. And at night, a tractor trailer is not going to expect kids and parents to be driving out of a soccer field. And it seems to me that is a disaster waiting to happen because truckers, God love them, we all appreciate our truckers because they kept us alive during COVID, but they also have a time limitation for their driving assignments. And, you know, they might not adhere to any of the, speed limits. And, parents with a bunch of kids are going to come out and try and leave that soccer field, and God forbid something happens. So
Judy, just to clarify, this project is on the northern end of Walton Avenue near Bancroft.
Right.
The way the drive is designed, the trucks can only make a right out of the complex. They wouldn't be able to make a left to go south towards the cross over Union Mill and go to the soccer field. They can only make a right to go out, and they would have to go out to Leadenhall and then either out onto 38 or go out to Briggs Road. So that's the only way the trucks could go leaving the site. That's the way the drive is designed, so that they can, when they're coming in from Leadenhall, they can make a left into the site. When they leave, they make a right out. So the site was redesigned. The applicant worked with our professionals, the board professionals, to do that, to discourage, just because of the way the drive is, to discourage them from going south on Walton. So that's the way the drive is. So the traffic would be going out through past Bancroft and out through the industrial park. It wouldn't be going near the soccer fields.
Okay, but what about the parents driving out after a soccer tournament going in the direction of this building?
Well, they would come up to Union Mill and either make a right or a left. In the meantime, the trucks are going to be north of that. They're not even going to come to that intersection. So the trucks would not be coming to that intersection, where if the parents are coming up to that intersection of Union Mill and Walton, the trucks are north of that. They're not coming to that intersection. So they wouldn't be interacting with those parents coming from that soccer game. And that's if the parents go towards Union Mill. If the parents make a left and head out towards Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, they would be further away from the site.
All right, well, the other concern I have also is it's a pretty small road. There's a little bridge there What about the trucks that are gonna go over there? I believe the poundage limit is 2 tons. Tractor trailers are gonna be way heavier than that. So what's gonna happen if a truck
So
falls?
this site is located north of the bridge. And as I stated, the drive in and out of the site was reconfigured so the trucks would not be able to turn in coming that way. So the trucks are being directed, and that's why we said that the address for the site was changed with the township, so that when they do their GPS, the GPS is going to bring them in either through Briggs or off of 38. You know how you can turn when you come off of 295, there's a
Mhm.
little turn off before you get to the Marriott, that it would bring them in that way. If they're coming from, if they're heading east on 38, it would bring them in that way. If they're heading west on 38, it's going to take them around the jug handle and bring them in Briggs. So the drive was remaneuvered to get in and out of this facility so that they wouldn't go over the bridge because of that tonnage issue. And then when they leave, they can't make that left. So that was the purpose of reconfiguring that drive to prevent them from going in that direction. And so that's what we did to try and address that issue.
Okay,
That's what the
Well-
applicant did.
that's all well and good, but I don't know about you, but I've had my GPS screw me up more than once.
And errors are made, and we all do that. You know, we see it all the time with things, but that was the effort that was made by the applicant to work with our board professionals to address that issue because of the concern for the residents on Walton, as well as that bridge because of the tonnage.
Okay. I just have one incidental question, and that is, why are these still Zoom meetings? Why aren't these in-person meetings?
Because of the increase in the Delta variant, the board had decided, along with township officials back in August, that we would continue to do Zoom meetings because to advertise the meetings, the board secretary has to have 60 to 90 days to notice. That's the legal requirement. And so at that time, the Delta variant was increasing. And so for the protection of everyone, we decided to stay with Zoom meetings. And to make that change now, you know, with the amount of notice that would have to be given to anybody participating. So we just agreed in August that the board decided that we would just continue to do Zoom till the end of the year. And then the board and the township officials will address it for the upcoming year, predicated on what continues to happen with the pandemic.
All right, thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
the session.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, do we have anybody else?
Really?
Okay, I have Tracy Sullivan. I know some of you have your hands up and you had spoken at the last meeting. I'm trying to get to those who didn't have an opportunity to speak. So I have Tracy Sullivan. Ms. Sullivan, can you raise your right hand for our solicitor?
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name for the record and provide your address.
Tracy Sullivan, TracySullivan, 45 Brookwood Road.
Thank
I'm
you.
just curious for fire and police, you know, obviously, I mean, while it sounds, we're repeatedly hearing, we don't know who the tenant is going to be. It seems that there's been a lot of planning for tractor trailers and 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, which seems kind of odd to not know who the tenant is. You know, what police and fire responsibilities will be, increased costs to patrolling parked cars, issues with trash, MUA, and everything else that obviously, you know, I mean, it sounds to me like it's going to be worse than an office building, right? An office building, typically 8 to 5, you're in, you're out, people are in their office and coming out. So is there an estimation for what burden this is going to put, you know, upon other township departments to manage the increase in not just traffic, but personnel? We see trash in all the parking lots from every office that we go to. So, you know, how is that going to be managed, and what is that going to cost the residents just to maintain that property and, agreeing with Emily said, you got no sidewalks out there. You've got a ton of people. You've got school buses that come from Hartford in that area. If you're running 3 shifts, you're going to have shifts going in there. When buses are on the road, you're going to have them leaving when buses are on the road. So I think it's, a significant concern for all of us who have kids on those buses and worried about, what is the safety issue to the residents and what is it going to cost the residents to maintain it and keep it a clean and neat property?
The applicant has a dumpster that will be on the property for trash removal. The township manager is on this meeting, so I'll let her address the other issues. And the fire marshal is also on this call, so he can discuss with you the fire issues, but I'll turn it over first to the township manager.
Sure. The township's not responsible for picking up the applicant's trash. That is on the applicant to have their trash picked up.
Well, look, as well as I do, trash doesn't stay where it lands, right? So it's going to be
Listen,
across the street.
I mean, I do.
gonna be all over the
And-
road.
And I can tell you, I'm taking everybody's testimony, and I've taken the testimony of our professionals, and all of that is considered prior to me, making my vote. And this type of use really does not have a high effect on EMS. Every business that comes to Mount Laurel Township has an effect on the police department. More traffic, more accidents. So it does have an impact on police. And we do consider that anytime there's a new applicant.
So,
business.
and you will state, despite the fact, again, that this is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week facility, you don't know who the tenant is going to be?
The applicant.
We have to tell you first, we don't know if it's going to be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week. The board has not
Okay, 'cause
voted
that was
on
mentioned.
anything. The board has not voted on anything. So, the board can set any limitations to a property. We have the right to do that. And so that hasn't been decided yet. This application hasn't been finalized. As part of the application process, because it is a public hearing, we listen to the public and we take into consideration your comments and concerns. Nothing has been finalized. As this hearing continues to go on, once the public portion is closed, it will come back to the board. There will be multiple discussions. That's typically how these hearings go. And then from there, we'll see where the application goes. But there has been no decision on whether it's a 24/7 application, facility. That has not been decided.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Brian, do you want to talk about the fire department?
Absolutely. The fire department has reviewed this application, and the applicant has worked with us to make sure that we have the adequate circulation for our emergency apparatus to access the building. They have also provided us with proposed water supply for us to access for if we have issues with the building. Also, when this building is built and designed, and they achieve their certificate of occupancy, they would be subject for annual fire inspections, and every year they would have to comply with the state's fire code and the state's requirements.
Is it a
So-
solar building?
Excuse me?
Will it be solar powered?
I don't think that's proposed at this time.
There's
not
no
proposed.
proposal for solar at this time.
For solar. It's
So there's no-
automatically, though, every building goes through, every business is inspected annually by the
Yeah, I
township
understand.
fire department. So he will continue, and we've moved towards, Brian, I know in all of our applications, a lockbox system with all businesses, so that should an incident happen in after hours, the fire department can access the facility in order to address the emergency situation as soon as possible and not have to wait for an owner to come on site.
That's correct.
Also, just so everyone understands, for those who didn't see the plans last month, they shut down the entrance. There was 2 entrances onto Fernbrook. And they shut down the one entrance that the tractor trailers would have used. It'll be chain across, but that will be an emergency entrance for the fire department. So the fire department would be able to remove that chain and enter the property in order to address any fire concerns. Any other questions, Ms. Sullivan?
No, I mean, I'm just wondering why you wouldn't put a solar requirement on the building. If this is the push, I mean, you've got a residential area in there where we're trying to, reduce emissions, right? Isn't this what everybody's complaining about? And now we're
Ms.
putting
Sullivan,
up
this
76.
is John Miller, the board solicitor. Under the law, the board does not have the authority to impose that condition.
Okay, yeah, well, it just, it's just interesting that you're plunking this in the middle of a residential area, basically, and between the exhaust from cars and trucks and everything else coming in and out, I mean, it's significant. And certainly it's not going to help the property values for the people living in that area.
Any other questions?
Actually, one comment, just Madam Chair, on as far as the property values. Under the case law in New Jersey, there's numerous case law. A land use board is not permitted to evaluate the effect of property valuations in any way.
John, sorry, 1 minute. Trish, can you make sure everybody's muted? The public's muted. Thank you. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
It's not something a board is permitted under the law to take under consideration in its deliberations.
Jay, I see you went unmuted. Is there anything you would like to?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I actually probably tried to go to mute.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Sullivan, for the
No, I'm
applicant?
fine, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
the replies.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public? I apologize. I have to hit multiple screens to see everybody.
Hi. Yes, I have a comment.
Okay, let me see if I can see you. I just Kaylee, Cal?
Yes.
Okay. If you could just raise your right hand so our board solicitor can swear you in.
Good evening. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this hearing?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name and provide your address for the record.
Kelly, K-E-L-E-I-G-H, Howell, H-O-W-E-L-L, 2 Spice Bush Court.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my comment is that I realize that we don't, every objection that we seem to be bringing up about this, there's an answer for it. And to be honest, it's a good, suitable answer that you guys have. I mean, it's obviously been well thought out, but the one thing that hasn't been thought out is the fact that the residents of the town really don't want this. We moved to Mount Laurel for a specific reason. We moved here because it has a small town feel. We have lots of greenery. We have lots of green spaces. We have lots of place for the kids to play. We have wildlife. We live here because we like it. We like it that way. We don't want our town to become industrialized. I realize that progress needs to happen. And I realize that this would probably bring in revenue for the town. And that's great, but at what cost? And I really want the board to weigh the benefit versus the detriment regarding the way that our town runs and the way that our town feels and the way that your residents like it to be. I mean, I live right off of Walton, and yes, everything that everybody has said about the kids playing on the street and the traffic implications, it is seriously concerning. The pollution, the trucks coming on, even just the wear and tear to the roads, and then roads having to be closed off because there's 10,000 cars. Even if the trucks don't come up and down, that bridge on Walton isn't going to support the workers driving up and down the street every day, all day. There's just lots of implications to this that really seems to be in direct conflict with the reasons why most of us chose to live in Mount Laurel and continue to choose to live in Mount Laurel. With the consideration to put speed bumps on Walton, I mean, just little things like that, I think are things that I would really like the board to think about it and just really remember that the residents seem to be pretty opposed to this type of industrialization happening in our community. Thank you.
So the first thing I want to address is the speed bumps.
Madam Chair, could I just say just one comment just before you provide your comments? I would caution about statements from the public as saying that the residents don't want this. It's really a hearsay comment because you're speaking for multiple residents. A member of the public certainly has the right to express his or her opinion, questions or comments on there. But I would caution as far as these blanket statements, as far as whether the residents don't want this. It's really a hearsay statement. And
You're right. You're right. And I do apologize for that.
No,
I will
no need to
amend my
apologize.
statements to say, I personally, as a resident, and all of my neighbors that I have personally spoken with.
Mhm. And there's no need to apologize. I just wanted all to be aware of the law in that regard.
Yes, thank you.
So as far as the speed bumps, we don't have the authority to add speed bumps to a road. That would be a township. The roads themselves it's a township issue. So
And I'll tell you, I can intervene here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The township's not going to recommend speed bumps. I know. I mean, I don't like to be the bad guy here. I know everybody loves speed bumps. The township doesn't like them. Yeah, the township doesn't like them. It makes it really hard to plow. There's a lot of issues that come in with public works with the speed bumps. A lot of times they get installed and then we get a lot of complaints from the public that they want them removed. So we actually don't recommend speed bumps really anywhere. We look for other
Yeah,
avenues
Meredith,
to go down.
there's speed bumps create noise issues, people hitting them.
And
There's
let
also
me tell you,
fire
if
access.
a truck's going over a speed bump, a house is going to feel it.
Yes.
But I thought trucks weren't going to go on Walton.
they're not, but we can't control every.
These trucks won't go on Walton. I
Oh,
can't
okay.
control if school buses go down Walton.
Right,
I
okay.
can't control if other trucks are delivering to other businesses, and they might happen to be going down Walton if they are going somewhere on 38. And that's what I'm saying. It's not that no trucks will go down Walton, and even a school bus goes over a speed bump, you're gonna feel it.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you.
so I wanted to have that addressed so everyone understood that. The other thing is, the board, just so everybody understands, the board is made up of township residents. We do this because we care about our community. We understand the concerns, but we are also limited in our authority to tell people what they can and cannot do with their property if it's an allowable use. And as the experts have said before, if it's an allowable use, there's limitations that the board has as far as saying to someone you can or cannot. So I just want people to understand that. We understand your frustration. Our job here and this is a volunteer board. All of us that serve on this board are volunteers. We live in Mount Laurel, we're residents, we understand. We've seen this before. I've been on the board when Walmart was being put in and all of those residents that lived over off Beaver Avenue and Oregon. And when we see it a lot with what transpires in the township. What we like to do and what we like to take into consideration when we listen to the public is we like to be able to say, is there things that we can adjust with the applicant to say, okay, hours of operation or this, that, or the other. So we like to work with the applicant when it's a permitted use in order to make it the best of what is, can be done with the site. So I just want to state that. I know that, we've heard the same comments and we understand the frustration. Is there anything else, Ms. Howell, that you would like to add or any other comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. The next hand I see is Agnes. Agnes, can you just raise your right hand for our solicitor?
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this hearing?
I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name for the record and provide your address.
Yes, my name is Agnes Maderich, AGNES MADERICH. My address is 1622 Hainesport Mount Laurel Road in Mount Laurel.
Thank you.
Okay, what is the updated address of the facility? I haven't seen that. Wait, I see somebody speaking with their microphone off.
Madam Chair,
John, I can answer that can you hear me?
I can, but we're getting a lot of feedback all of a sudden. I'm not sure exactly why.
It seemed to start when Ms. Madeiras came online. But the
Tricia,
updated address,
Tricia, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Mr. Baranowski. Tricia, is everyone muted?
Everyone's muted.
Ramesh, can you mute just mute? That's not making a difference. Okay.
Agnes, are you by chance on a computer and a phone?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Baranowski.
the updated address is 300 Walton Avenue and 350 Walton Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, I'm hearing a lot of discussion of GPS routes coming from different directions and streets are being named. Is that written anywhere? I haven't seen it in any of the documents that I've looked at.
Mike, would you like to speak to that?
The applicant's traffic engineer prepared a supplemental traffic letter. I believe it was dated October 2021. At any rate, they, in response to our comments, they indicated through GPS that trucks will come in through Route 38, Bishopsgate Road, Leadenhall, and Walton Avenue. Those trips would originate either to the south, north, and west of the site. Trips to, we'll say, the southeast will likely come in via another route, most likely Union Mill or some other route to the site.
Can those be put in writing? And I'm
They are in writing.
But I don't see them in Dropbox. Are they someplace where the public can see
So
them?
Agnes, if the application is approved tonight by the board, there's a resolution that is prepared and all of this will go into the resolution, which becomes a permanent record of the township so that it is in writing.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, there's an October 2021 letter that I think is not accessible to the public. Is that correct?
No, everything's in the Dropbox.
Yeah, everything is in there.
Which document is it? I'm in Dropbox, I don't see it.
Mike, is it your review letter?
It's no, it's in the letter from the supplemental traffic report prepared by McMahon Associates. I have the October 2021 report. Mr. McGinnis, if you may, I think you prepared a letter prior to the October 2021 letter. What was the date of that document?
Well, as you said, Mike, the October 1st, 2021 letter has current routes using truck navigation. So
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Dan. I apologize. That is the correct letter. It's dated October 1st, 2021. I just didn't look far enough into the document.
So then in Dropbox, everything starts, for example, a lot of the documents start with PB 2104. Can you point me to a document that has these GPS routes? And my question is, are they pictorial or are they descriptions of street names?
Ma'am, if I may,
Yes.
in the documents, there's a PB 2104 supplemental traffic impact study.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
That is the document they're referring to.
Thanks, Jeff.
And where are the GPS routes? Can you point me to a page number? I don't. Okay, it looks, no, I don't see them.
I would look at appendix or attachment E of that
Okay.
document.
Okay, so I see some maps here that show routes. It looks like there might be 4 on the last page and 4 with a black and white checkered flag.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I'll look at those. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions tonight if I have questions about these.
This is John Miller. The board says no, this is really your opportunity for questions.
Right.
Okay, well then I have a question right now. They don't seem to show enough detail because they're at a scale where they're showing towns as far away to the north as Jobstown. And so I don't see how anyone could tell what the actual routes are from these images.
I personally reviewed that document and I felt that there was insufficient detail to describe the routes to the site. We're not overly concerned the routes prior to entering Mount Laurel. We're mostly concerned with once they hit Route 38, what routes they take to the site, for one lack of a better word, surface streets, local roads. Based on those documents, I thought it was very clear that the majority of the trips will come in from Bishopsgate to Leadenhall to Walton.
Okay, I do see those streets, even though they're not labeled on here. I agree with you on that.
Right, it just takes a little bit to look at it, but once it's reviewed thoroughly, it becomes very clear that that's the route that is shown in the report.
Okay, my question is, how are these generated? I see these routes are documented on some kind of a map, but if I put in a GPS that went from Camden to the facility address, has anybody verified that these are the routes that would come up?
I did enter the various routes, and GPS that I used, Google Earth, Google Maps, I came up with similar routes. Then I also realized that trips originating from the southeast will come in a route other than what's described in that document.
Okay, so coming from the southeast, if that route is not shown here, what is it?
We don't know exactly what route it would be, but it would likely be Union Mill. It would have to be Union Mill to Briggs to Leadenhall to Walton Avenue. Because again, Walton has a weight restriction. Trucks are not permitted to travel on that roadway.
Okay, so I think you're saying this would be a circle with a lot of left turns to come from Union Mill to, I think, Briggs, Leadenhall, and then come back down from the north to south on Walton. Is that correct?
The applicant, I'm sorry, I discussed at the last meeting, the applicant would provide wayfinding signs to this site as part of this application should it get approved.
If it's coming from the southeast, they would be coming down Union Mill, making a right onto Briggs. And the signs would be put there, making a right onto Briggs, and then a left onto Leadenhall.
Right, the exact location of the signs would be decided during resolution compliance, should it get approved.
Okay, I have no more questions, but I would like to register a concern that I think there will be poor control of where the trucks will travel in the vicinity of the facility. And I don't live that close to the facility, but I do think that the residents who live close have a valid point about truck traffic and not obeying signs and traveling where it shouldn't be. So I just would like to register that comment. And I thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else from the public that'd like to speak on this application? I have Aaron Whalen.
Or Pat Whalen.
I'm sorry, I have to go by what's on the Zoom account. I apologize.
That's okay.
Can you raise your right hand for our solicitor?
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please state, spell your name for the record and provide your address.
Patrick Whalen, Whalen, 9 Yearling Chase. Good evening, everybody.
I'm sorry, could you say your address one more time, please?
9 Yearling Chase.
Thank you.
So I apologize if this question's been addressed already, but as a broad overview, what are the benefits of this facility if it were approved? What are the benefits to the township? I'm assuming that would be monetary.
The site is being proposed because it's an allowable district. So the township doesn't look at something and say, what's the benefit if a application comes forth and it's in the correct area. So that area is zoned industrial. And this applicant fits that. So that's why they're before this board. And so we review the applications predicated on the applications that come forward and are allowable for that usage.
Right.
zoning
Do we have a
commission.
proposed amount of tax the township will collect?
I couldn't speak to that.
That has not been calculated.
That
No.
doesn't get calculated until after our project's been approved.
Okay.
And just so you know, the board's not provided that information, and the township generally doesn't look at that information prior to an application.
Okay. Next, there's been a lot of concern about wear and tear on the roads. I know you cited a few studies that were done. As far as permitting fees and stuff like that, there's going to be a significant amount of wear and tear on these roads with large trucks driving up and down. Has that wear and tear been estimated or calculated as far as when these roads will have to be replaced, since it will be sooner? And who's going to foot that bill? Is that built in anywhere in permit fees, or, you know,
Part of
their
their taxes. Part of their taxes. So it's just like when you drive and use the roads. If you're driving up and down the roads quite a bit, the wear and tear is part of your taxes. There's people that drive in the township that don't live in the township. So that's just part of the tax revenue. The township assesses roads every year to determine what needs to be replaced. And that's something that's determined at the township level. And they use tax dollars to do that. Sometimes they are able to apply for grants depending on what's going on, but that's just part of the tax usage, is wear and tear on the roads.
Okay. And lastly, snow was mentioned. Is there any design in their plans for snow removal of these large trucks? So, you know, snow can fly off trucks as they're driving down the roads. And you ever seen them contraptions that?
The state law is they have to clear the top of a tractor trailer. Now that's the state law. We have all been on the roads and we know that's not always followed. But then that falls onto the owner operator of the truck. And that's a state law, and this.
And it's
board
an
and the
enforcement.
applicant- That's
It's
it.
it's an enforcement issue that the township of Mount Laurel Police Department would have to enforce.
They get on a highway, that's up to state police,
police.
whoever the law enforcement entity is for the town that they're traveling through.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? I have a Michael D. Cicio. Did I say that correctly?
Close, DeSico.
Cicio. Okay, can you
Yes,
raise your right hand, please, for our solicitor?
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this hearing?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please state and spell your name for the record and provide your address.
Michael DeSico, DeCicco. Address 42 Eddystone Way, Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, my question concerns, we were talking about this facility being like a warehouse and with trucks coming in and out. Is there a township ordinance about the trucks idling for any certain amount of time?
There's actually a state requirement for that.
Mhm.
The state limits the amount of time a truck can idle.
What is that?
I believe it's 5 minutes, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, because I'm
And the
just,
state supersedes the township, obviously.
all right, because I'm just thinking that if these trucks are gonna come in and out and they have a waiting period when they're trying to get to the dock or out of the dock, if they're gonna be sitting there idling with their lights on and, you know, the fuel exhaust emitting,
Mhm.
that's a concern I would have too, along with the truck traffic. And is someone gonna be monitoring the site to see how long these trucks are idling? Because I'm sure the neighbors aren't going to want to hear the trucks idling. And if the trucks have their lights on while they're waiting,
So that would be a zoning issue. You know, the township is responsible for every property in the town. And if we receive a complaint, we investigate every complaint that we receive regarding a property. And if they're violating a state or township ordinance, sometimes they're given a warning and sometimes they're actually issued a ticket.
okay, thank you. I just wanted to add that as to the list of concerns.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you have?
Now,
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this application?
I do.
Let me go back. I'm sorry. I'm looking to see who I have. Is this Dennis?
Yep.
Dennis, can you raise your right, can you
Excuse
raise your right hand?
Madam Chair, pardon me, but Mr. Cullinan already spoke. We're not going to go around and give everybody.
Oh, Mr.
a
Collin,
second and
did
third
you
round of
speak at the
comments.
last hearing, Mr. Collin?
Yeah,
You
I
did.
kind of got cut off by the out-of-town attorney who was extremely rude. My question was never answered.
Okay, what was your question, Mr. Collin?
My question simply was, is
Mr.
there any-
Coleman, this is John Miller, the board attorney. Just as a reminder, you remain under oath.
Okay, thank you. So my question was very specific. It was basically asking, has there been any analysis? Is there any statistics as far as what percentage of people actually follow the signs? It was then followed up today. There was questions from Rick.
Well, Mr. Coleman, this is John Miller, the board attorney. I'm looking at my notes here, and you did answer that question. And it was answered by Mr. McGinnis that there were no such statistics. So that question has been asked and answered.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this application? John, anybody who spoke at the last hearing, we don't call on them again?
We do not, Madam Chair. No, it's not the public portion of a land use application is not a back and forth. The public is provided the opportunity to make questions or make comments when they're sworn in. In the event where the public session carries over into two sessions, it doesn't mean that all the public comments or questions and the testimony thereof from the previous meeting is not on the record. It is all on the record. It is part of the record. It's part of what the board takes into deliberations. So all of the testimony that was provided by the public at the previous hearing, it's on the record and it's preserved on the record. So there's the purpose for, we were unable to finish the public session. We started with the public session. The purpose is to continue with it, but not have additional members of the public get a second bite of the apple, so to speak.
Okay. So again, is there anybody from the public who has not spoken that would like to speak on this application? You can raise your hand if you do. I'm not seeing anyone. Trish, are you seeing anyone?
No, I see no one.
Okay, seeing no one else wishes to speak on this application from the public, I'm going to close the public portion of this application and bring it back to the board. Comments, concerns, questions from the board members?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Mike Pfeiffer. I've got a question for Mike. Traffic engineer.
Sure.
So Mike, so I think we've talked about the entrance in, coming into the assisted living home, how that's been blocked off. We've talked about the traffic coming on Bishopsgate into Leaden Hall, right from Route 38. So question I have is traffic that's coming in on Union Mill, right? Whether it be coming from Morristown Mount Laurel Road or it's coming from Hartford Road, right? Either of those traffic, right? Is there an ability to guide GPS and push GPS to a certain direction? And if the answer to that, so I'll let you answer that first, and then.
I'm not sure what the process would be to contact the folks who operate GPS
right
various systems that have a desired route put into the system. I just don't know the answer to that. I don't know if the process exists that allows you to do that.
Yeah, Mr. Pfeiffer, this is the board's planner. I don't believe that there's an ability to do that.
Okay, no, so
I wouldn't think so, but yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either, but just from a technology perspective, I was just asking. So traffic that's coming on Union Mill, right, with the address being Walton Avenue, right, and with the limitation or the issue with that, lightly sized bridge, that wooden bridge, it's on Walton Avenue, right? And so what is, to prevent a safety issue and tractor trailers going straight to Walton Avenue as opposed to going to Bishopsgate and then Leaden Hall, right? Is there anything that we can do from a board perspective to be stricter and in the sense prevent that traffic going down Walton Avenue? Because I am truly concerned about the traffic on Walton, the traffic from Union Mill entering into Walton Avenue with that bridge that, who knows whether or not it can hold it, and, God forbid that there's an accident.
Quite honestly, we'll have to rely on signage at Walton Avenue and Union Mill to, indicate, the weight restriction along that roadway. The applicant has indicated he's going to work with the township professionals to add guide signs along Union Mill Road to direct truckers to the desired route to the site. There's nothing really there out there that can prevent someone from just accessing that road. There is technology out there that will, say, document a truck that drives over that bridge.
Yep.
If it were, it would just be a reactionary type device. Again, the technology is out there that vehicles over a certain height, they would be photographed, and then you'd have at least documentation of that vehicle traveling over the bridge. You could not find them based on that photograph. New Jersey does not have a photo or electronic enforcement. It's not permitted in the state. So again, it would just be for documentation purposes, or the bridge damaged. You could then potentially go after that driver. But that technology does exist. Aside from signage, there's really not many options to actually physically prevent a truck from traveling down that roadway.
So given that we likely can't, from a technology perspective, I'll say manipulate the GPS or force the GPS to go on Bishopsgate and Leaden Hall, right? And vehicles coming down Union Mill, they're likely going to head towards Walton Avenue, right? So I'm just trying to understand from a board's responsibility and safety point of view, right? Have we adequately addressed that concern, in the eyes of the professionals, and as a board member, that is a concern of mine.
Again, we looked at the routes to the site from trucks originating from the north, the south, and the west. Again, the GPS predominantly will send you along 38, Bishopsgate, Leaden Hall, Walton. The only wild card that I could find are trips originating from the southeast. Again, because just the very fact that they're originating from that direction, it's going to take them to another route other than the 3 roads that I just described. So again, we'll have to rely on signage, enforcement to prevent trucks from accessing Walton Avenue. from
Okay.
Union Mill.
Okay, and trucks coming from the southwest. So in other words, a truck coming up Route 73.
Southeast
South-
is where the problem
southeast.
is.
My question is southwest, right? So a truck coming up Route 73, right, that's coming into Mount Laurel, right? How do we feel that they're going to go? I mean, because
Probably, they're probably gonna be directed to 38 and then brought in.
Yeah, I think that would be the desired route. Again, the only one that I found that might be an issue would be the southeast.
Okay.
Southeast would be if they were coming from Hartford or Arc Road, that
Understand.
direction.
Sure, understand.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. Yeah, I'm just curious, right, coming from 73, right? You're coming from the south, you come up through Maple Avenue, you come straight down Maple turns into Church, you turn into Union Mill Road and here we are. Right. So that's I'm just trying to understand that.
Again, I would think most drivers rely on GPS. There's always going to be drivers who are very familiar with the area. They're going to take the route that they feel most comfortable with. So again, for us to say, 100% of the trucks from the north are going to take that desired route, no one can say that. So again, this is what we expect them to travel. We can't say things with certainty here.
So can you go over the signage and the restrictions that are going to be placed on the intersection of Walton and Union Mill again?
We'll just use standard MUTCD signs that indicate no trucks permitted with the weight restriction, the supplemental plaque indicating, I think it was 4-ton weight restriction. The signage we'll have to work on that, but again, we'll follow the requirements of the manual on uniform traffic control devices. It's very clear. We give a lot of guidance on how to develop these signs, and we will certainly follow that when developing guide signs to the site. Exactly. I can't go into great detail at this point because we haven't gotten that far, and it would be premature to really even dive into it at this point.
Understand. And I know we've worked through with the proposed project owner that, or the applicant about the entrance and exit to the facility. So I know that aspect is would be difficult coming from that direction. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do other board members have questions for our professionals or for the applicant?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I got a question.
Yep.
I guess before Mike and Meredith, one of the members of the public, mentioned or talking about the buses over at Bancroft, and seemed to talk about how there might be staging, just outside there by the entrance and exit. Is there any confirmation of that? Michael, I don't know if you had seen that or
there is.
Meredith?
Yes, I have seen that. 100%, I have seen that.
Mhm.
That is
So
true.
they're like
And I have it
stacking out
every.
there, they're staging out there.
It looks like they're stacking. They're waiting to.
They're waiting to go
turn
in. Yeah,
and to pick up their students.
a little bit of both, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't. Yeah. Again, I'm not out there every day, but the times I've been out there, I have seen it. Yes.
Okay.
It is not uncommon for special needs schools for their buses to stack like that because the bus needs to actually get closer to the school to allow the students off. So they kind of stack, another one moves, the bus moves up. It's kind of that constant rotation that's happening all the time. And that's not uncommon at all with special needs facilities.
Okay. And Jay, since you're on there, I think early on in our discussions, I think there was some sort of maybe controversy or a question regarding variances. Do we have any that we're considering here? Is there any butting of the heads with this right now?
I would not say butting of the heads. There's a variance necessary for the basin setback, as we discussed and went through in the various conversations. Was the applicant's original opinion that they felt that the variance was not necessary and that it was an existing condition because there is a basin there, but there is proposed activity that's happening in that basin. It's being expanded, and in my opinion, therefore, it's no longer a pre-existing condition because it's changing. We've said that the variance is necessary. I believe the applicant in their testimony has acknowledged, for lack of a better term, that that's my opinion. They've asked for the variance. And there was discussion over that. I think that was the only questionable variance to this application. And Mr. Baranowski, if you disagree, feel free to step up.
I do not disagree, Mr. Petrangelo. Thank you. I thought after some extensive discussion on that issue, I actually thought back on October 14th, you indicated you were satisfied with the testimony that was offered. Once we kind of got through the discussion of whether it was necessary or not, since we're doing work on the basin, but we're not increasing the nonconformity, but we did put the variance testimony on. I thought you indicated at that time you were satisfied with the testimony when it was presented.
Well, you had indicated measures that were going to be taken to offset that variance, additional landscaping to go in, additional site improvements. I had no objection to those, the landscaping and the plant material that was going in. That's true.
Mitigation, yes. Okay.
I have a question. So if this application is approved, there's no going back to them as far as time or the number of days they can, unless it's decided by the board at this time. Correct?
I apologize, Madam Chair. Are you asking about 24 hours a day? Can we limit 24 hours a day?
Correct. So my question is, if the application's approved in time and the number of days a week of operation are not addressed during this hearing, then they can operate whenever they want to operate. Is that correct?
Yes.
So at this time, I know that there is no tenant for that site, but based on some of the comments we've received, I would like to know if they can provide us with some kind of guidelines for us to consider as a board for the number of days this location would operate and the hours in which it would operate.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Bob Baranowski speaking. If I may, on that topic, I'd say since this is, as we've discussed many times over, a permitted use, any end user of the space would be required to operate consistent with township regulations for that type of business, and that's what they would be subject to. So that's what I will propose.
But the board can also put limitations on that.
I would disagree. The board can put limitations on a permitted use that aren't already existing in an ordinance that pertains to operation of businesses within a permitted business zoning district such as this.
John, can you comment on that?
The applicant would be required, if the application was approved, the applicant would be required to comply with the ordinance.
So can the board put limitations on it? I mean, we've done it with other applications.
We can't per se put additional limitations on a permitted use beyond what the applicant would voluntarily be willing to comply with.
I agree with that.
Do we know what
Sorry, Jay, I
the
didn't mean to
township,
interrupt you.
do we know what the township ordinance is as far as operations on a site like this?
Yes, they can operate.
Yeah, there is
There's no limitation.
Yeah, there's no 24-hour limitation in the industrial zone.
They could operate 24/7.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, Jay, how's that different from previous applications where we have put hours restrictions out there?
Depending on the application, depending on the zone, depending on what they're doing, many applicants basically tell us what their hours are. Say, for example, a commercial retail facility, their hours, they'll let us know what their hours are as part of their application, and they agree to accept that as part of their application. That's the difference. In this case, if Mr. Baranowski or the applicant would say it would be willing to accept a limitation so that their particular hours are from X to Y, that would be part of the record. But we can't, if it was a use variance situation, it was before the zoning board, that would be a different story. We'd have the ability to control those hours, but this is a permitted use and the zone does not have a limitation on the hours.
Well, if you remember, Sky Zone, I think.
Yes,
We put restrictions on that.
They were in a
That-
redevelopment
that,
zone.
right, that was a redevelopment zone. It was a different zone with different standards.
You can do that in a redevelopment zone.
Okay.
Is there any consideration on, of industrial up against residential?
No.
No.
Not for the limitations of hours. Again, there are noise limitations and noise
Okay.
concerns, state standards that have to be addressed and complied with.
Okay.
And
That's
zoning
no
would
question.
and zoning would enforce those. No,
Okay.
zoning, police would enforce
Okay,
those. So.
thank you.
Any other questions from the board members for the applicant or our board professionals? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Baranowski, do you want to close on this application? Anything you want to say?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is the third evening of hearings that are being conducted on this application. We started back on August 12th. I gave the board a detailed overview, presented testimony at that time from Mr. DePiero on the proposed use, Mr. Cornick on planning and engineering, and Mr. McGinnis on traffic. We continued on October 14th. I did at that time give the board kind of a detailed recap of what had been presented in August and discussed some modifications we had made to the application at that time on the record. So I won't rehash that whole thing. That's on the record. We heard some additional testimony during that hearing from our witnesses, as well as testimony from our architect, Ms. Kim Decken. So at this time, after the third evening of hearings on this, the board has now heard from the applicant, you've heard from our professionals, you heard from your professionals, and comments from the public, and you've very ably addressed those. And we thank you for your time and your professionals' time, giving your very careful attention to all the testimony that was presented over the course of these 3 evenings. Now that you're preparing to make a decision, we ask you to focus on the following aspects of the application and find that the outcome here should be an approval subject to reasonable enumerated conditions that are related to project-specific impacts. And of course, the threshold impact we've addressed is that the application is one for a permitted use. This isn't disputed in any way, shape, or form. I've addressed the significance of this critical issue and cited the applicable case law on the record. And in a letter I submitted to the board's attorney October 12th. Those cases include PRB Enterprises versus South Brunswick Planning Board, 105, New Jersey 1, a New Jersey Supreme Court case from 1987. Pizzo Mountain Group versus Township of Randolph, 137, New Jersey 216. That's a New Jersey Supreme Court case from 1994. And Shim versus Washington Township Planning Board. That's 298 NJ Super 395. That's an appellate division case from 1997. And all these cases stand for the premise that a planning board reviews an application for permitted use to determine whether the application conforms with the zoning ordinance and the site plan ordinance. And the statute itself, the municipal land use law, provides the planning board shall, if the proposed development complies with the ordinance and this act, grant site plan approval. And that's section 46B of the act. Your planner, Mr. Petrangelo, he gave a very thorough explanation of the issue of a permitted use to the public at the last hearing date, explained that this board does not decide whether the proposed warehouse use belongs at this property. That determination has already been made by the governing body. And Mr. Petrangelo has reiterated some of those same issues again tonight, including the fact that this applicant has the right to use the public roads like anyone else. So the focus of the board's deliberation tonight is on whether the proposal complies with the ordinances as per the land use law and the case law. So with regard to the present application for a permitted use, we conform with all the aspects of the zoning ordinance and the site plan ordinance with the single requested variance for an existing nonconformity that we just discussed earlier, relating to the location of a stormwater basin that's already existing within a buffer area on the other side of Fernbrook Road from Brightview. We're doing work on that basin, as we just talked about, we're not increasing the nonconformity. We've agreed to take some steps to mitigate the effects of that variance relief and enhance the landscaping around that basin. So we've addressed that single variance through engineering and planning testimony. And after extensive discussion, as we reiterated tonight, I believe Mr. Petrangelo is satisfied with the proposed variance conditions and our testimony. And we need no other variance relief. We've agreed to accept conditions to address that basin variance we just discussed, and we agreed to accept conditions that would be imposed on any approval of this application by the board in order to address concerns raised about traffic. So while we need no variances relating to traffic, the board does have authority to impose reasonable conditions pursuant to duly adopted ordinances to address off-site traffic impacts that have a nexus to the project. And the case law on this is also clear. There's a Dunkin' Donuts case. There's actually many Dunkin' Donuts cases, but one in particular that I'm referring to says specifically that pursuant to ordinance, the board may condition site plan approval upon a contribution to necessary off-site street improvements. But the authority to prohibit or limit uses generating traffic into already congested streets is an exercise of the zoning power vested in the municipal governing body. That's the Dunkin' Donuts in New Jersey case versus North Brunswick Planning Board. That's 193 New Jersey Super 513. That's an appellate division case from 1984. And the board's professionals and the board have proposed such conditions here, and we've agreed to them. And specifically as to the traffic issues, as Mr. Angelastro explained tonight, we agreed to conduct a post-development traffic study to determine whether any contributions under your traffic improvement district standards are warranted. We've agreed to perform off-site intersection widening at Leadenhall Bishopsgate intersection and the Leadenhall Walton Road intersection within the right-of-way. We've agreed no warehouse trucks will use Fernbrook. It's access for employee vehicles and delivery vehicles like FedEx only, and emergency access only on Fernbrook, no warehouse trucks. We are going to install truck route signage directing truck traffic to use Briggs and Mount Laurel Road coming off of Union Mill Road. There will be a prohibition leaving the site for making a left turn out from Walton. And we're going to replace and improve the current 4-ton weight restriction signs pertinent to the bridge. So all the above conditions are specifically designed to address any off-site traffic concerns that have been raised, and we've agreed to them. Based on recommendations from the board's professionals relating to other ordinance standards, we've also agreed to the following conditions to be imposed if the board grants approval of the application tonight. And Chairwoman Conti, you did mention one of those earlier, and that was that we will apply for DEP permits for Walton Road widening and a sidewalk along our frontage. If DEP permits are denied, we have proposed in that event to dedicate a 10-foot wide right-of-way along our frontage of Walton Road for future road widening that the township may do, and to make a payment in lieu contribution for the length of sidewalk on the Walton side to address and satisfy the ordinance requirements. And that is also provision permitted by your ordinance. And as you mentioned also, Madam Chair, we are installing sidewalk on the Union Mill side. We'll also be subject to non-residential development fees pertinent to affordable housing requirements, consistent with the statewide statute. And we've agreed to work with the board's planner and engineer to address the comments such as landscaping and lighting to enhance the buffers for landscaping along Walton and along the basin, which we anticipate would be a process that will result in reasonable parameters and an agreed scope of work. And with regard to any other issues raised during the comment period, I would submit that the proposed conditions that I've enumerated that have been agreed upon by the applicant will appropriately address any impacts to the offsite areas directly affected by the project. Any comments that were made in generally speaking, challenging the location of the site for the project, they're all covered by the law governing board determinations on permitted uses as cited and as has been recognized during the course of these hearings. So the board now has the task of making a decision that may not perhaps be very popular or viewed as unpopular, but the board is bound to follow the law. And the applicant has presented an application that merits approval under the legal standards applicable to the board's determination here as cited. So based on the record presented and the conditions that have been agreed upon, we therefore ask the board to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. John, would you like to outline the conditions of the application? Is there anything beyond what Mr. Baranowski just listed?
I think the only thing that I would add to that is that we can state in the record that all the conditions that were provided on the record, should the board, when the board votes, all those conditions, everything that was put on the record would be subject to or be included in the vote for the deliberation.
Thank you. So at this time, I will call for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve, Meredith?
No.
Okay, so
I'll second.
can we clarify that? So
Sure, I
motion,
make a motion to deny the application. I don't see a need for the variance. I've had ample time to review all of the testimony from our professionals, the applicant's professional. I have major traffic concerns with the application, and at this time, I deny the application.
okay, I have a motion from Meredith to deny the application. Do I
I'll
have a
second that.
second? I have a second from Mayor Staglitt. Do you have any comments, Mayor Staglitt?
Ditto to what Meredith Tomczyk just said.
Trish, will you call a vote?
And Madam Chair, just before we
Yes.
have a vote, just a reminder for the board, a yes vote is to deny the application.
John, do they have to give an explanation when if they say yes?
They do not. The board members, whenever they vote, they are not required to make make any statement other than the vote.
Okay, so as the board members were just told, if you vote yes, it's for denial of the application and no further comment is needed. Trish, will you call the roll, please?
Township Manager Tomczak,
Aye.
Mayor Staglitt,
Aye.
alternate number 2, Mr. Venkakishnan,
You're muted. Ramesh, you have to unmute. Sorry, everyone. There you go.
Yes.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
alternate number 2, Mr. Troilau,
Aye.
Mr. Baskey,
Aye.
Mr. Pfeiffer,
Aye.
Mr. Pizzo,
Aye.
Chairwoman Conti.
I so moved. Thank you for everyone that participated in the hearing.
Madam Chair, the application is denied.
Thank you. At this time, the next thing on the agenda is the adjournment. Before I do an adjournment, is there anything from the board professionals that they'd like to say to the board, or any notices, or
No comment, Madam Chair.
No comment.
anything from the board? Any comments from the board before I ask for motion to adjourn?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just
Yes.
want to say thank you to the residents for coming out. I know this was the third meeting for this, and I know sometimes these meetings can go a little long, and some of the rules of obviously things carrying over can be a little crazy, but I appreciate everyone's patience and for everybody joining us here tonight. And thank you, Chairwoman, for conducting a sound meeting three times in a row for a very complicated situation.
Anybody else from the board have any comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Mr. Pfeiffer. I have a second from Township Manager Tomachek. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trish, do you want to
Good night,
stay
everyone.
on so we can
Good night,
talk
everyone.
about the resolution? Thank you,
Good.
everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So I know you're closed tomorrow. So I know I have that resolution to sign. So I'm going out of town on Friday for a couple of hours. Do you think it would be ready by 9:30 or 10, or is it depend on John?
No, I'm off on Friday, so.
You're off on Friday. Okay, that's perfect. So Monday I'm
Yeah.
working from home. So if you want to just email me or call me, then I'll come over on my
Perfect.
lunch hour. Does that work?
Perfect, yes, that'll
Okay.
give me time to get it ready.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to touch base with you because I know we normally do, and with the holiday, I want to.
Good night, guys. Lisa, have a nice holiday weekend.
Thank you, you
I'll see
too.
Bye,
Um,
Trish. See you Monday.
Bye, Meredith. Have a good night.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch base with you to make sure that we do. Okay, so yeah, so if you just want to either email me or call me on Monday, and then I'll come over and sign whatever you
Yep,
have
that's-
for me.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that
Is it just, it's just you and I on